The Supreme Court's decision just changed one of Donald Trump's biggest legal battles. Pay attention to this. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the biggest political stories don't begin just with a speech or an election? They begin with a court order. No cheering crowd, no campaign rallies, just few pages from the highest court in the United States of America. And that suddenly became the biggest headline in America today. Well, that's exactly what happened here. So the United States Supreme Court has decided not to hear Donald Trump's appeal in Jean Carroll's case. That means the civil jury's verdict remains exactly where it was, and whether you support Donald Trump or completely oppose him. This decision is going to be talked about for years because it touches politics, law, reputation, and presidency itself totally. So let's break down exactly what happened and why this matters a lot and why this story is far bigger than many people even realize this. So let's go back to where all it started, right? Years ago, writer Jean Carroll accused Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her inside the department store in New York during 1990s. Trump strongly denied the allegation from the very beginning. He said it never happened, questioned Carroll's credibility, and described the accusations are absolute false. So the dispute eventually moved into the federal court. Now, here's something often that get lost online. This was not a criminal trial. Donald Trump was not criminally convicted. This was a civil case where the questions before the jury was whether he was legally liable based on the evidence presented. And that distinction matters a lot. After hearing testimony and reviewing the evidence, a federal jury concluded that Donald Trump was liable for sexually abusing Jean Carroll and for defaming her after she came forward publicly. So the jury awarded Carroll millions of dollars in damages to her. Now, Donald Trump appealed that exact same decision right there. His legal team argued that the verdict should not stand and that mistake had been made during the proceedings. Like many high-profile cases, the legal battle continued through the appeals process. Now, then came the latest chapter. The Supreme Court declined to review the appeal. Now, here it gets honestly very interesting. That does not mean the Supreme Court ruled on whether the allegations were true or not. It means the court chose not to take up the case, leaving the lower court's judgment in place with respect. So that's an important legal difference right here. Now, let's think about what this means politically to Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't just a former president, and as we all know that, he's one of the most influential and controversial political figure in modern American history, and he's so famous for that. Now, every court case involving Donald Trump instantly becomes political because millions of Americans see him through completely different lenses. They trust him. To his supporters, these legal battles are part of a broader campaign against him. They argue that he has faced extraordinary scrutiny because of his political position. Now, to his critics, the court are simply applying the law like they would apply to anyone else. That's why this case continues to dominate headlines. It's not only about the one lawsuit, it has become the part of the larger debate over accountability, power, and public trust. And it's getting just a nasty chaos. One of the biggest criticisms being raised after this decision is about the reputation itself, which is the biggest thing. Now, even though this was a civil case rather than a criminal prosecution, many people argue that leaving the verdict in the place has significant impact on how history may remember Donald Trump. Now, supporters respond that civil liability and criminal guilt are not the same thing. And they emphasize that Donald Trump has consistently denied the allegations. Now, those two perspectives, if you put, continue to divide the public opinion totally on two other sides. Another question people are asking is why the Supreme Court didn't step in. So the answer is actually very straightforward. It's very simple. The Supreme Court receives thousands of requests every single year and agrees to hear only small percentage of them. So when it declines a case, it is not only necessarily agreeing or disagreeing the lower court. Often, it simply decides the case does not meet its criteria for the review. And legally, that leaves the existing judgment untouched totally. So what makes this exact case historically significant is that it adds another extraordinary chapter to presidency already defined by unprecedented legal challenges. Few former presidents have faced the number of civil and criminal proceedings that Donald Trump has. Whether someone view that as an evidence of accountability or evidence of relentlessness, legal pressure often depends on their political perspectives totally. But either way, it is part of a historical record totally. So this case also shows something bigger than Donald Trump. It shows how powerful the American judicial system can be. Now, the jury hears the evidence, judges review the appeals, and even the highest court in the country can decide that a lower court's judgment will remain in force. That means It's full of respect here. That's how the legal system is designed to operate, regardless who the parties are on the screen. Now, here's the larger question. What does this mean going forward? Politically, it is almost certain that this case will continue to be referenced by both Trump supporters and his opponents. His critics will point to the jury's finding as evidence that the court reached an important conclusion, and his supporters will continue to argue that he was treated unfairly and that he should not be judged by a civil verdict alone. So that debate is unlikely to disappear anytime soon from the market. So history often remembers leaders not only for the decisions they probably make in the office, but also the legal and political battles that surround them after they leave the office. So this Supreme Court decision doesn't end the argument over Donald Trump at all. If anything, it ensures that this chapter remains a part of the broader story of his presidency and his legacy, what he will leave in America. Whether you believe this outcome reflects justice, legal process, or something probably more political, one thing is very undeniable. This case has become one of the defining legal controversies connected to a former American president. And with the Supreme Court declining to hear the appeal, that chapter remains firmly written into the history books. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What is your opinion and where this all is going and what's happening with Trump? Is it right or wrong? Does he deserve this or he doesn't deserve this? I want to know your opinion in the comments. Thank you. See you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates because you will be updated with some big, massive, fresh news. No bullshit, no BS on this channel. Thank you. See you next time.